Hi, my name is Ruben Anguiano, and today I'm going to be talking about Rocky Horror Picture Show, one of my absolute favorite films, and one of the most important films that I think that has ever come out. So the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I'll give a brief introduction, the plot summary. The film follows Brad and Janet, a newly engaged couple on their way to celebrate their engagement with an old professor. Along the drive, their car breaks down and they're forced to take refuge at a mysterious manor nearby. There, they meet Dr. Frank-N-Furter, a sweet transvestite from the planet Transsexual Transylvania. His new experiment, a perfect specimen named Rocky, comes to life and chaos ensues. So, when it comes to plot, kind of a lot happens, but kind of nothing happens, and it's kind of all over the place, and you're kind of just going from one thing to the next, and the plot really isn't that important. And I feel like you really can see this in the character of Frank-N-Furter. Frank-N-Furter is this doctor that's kind of supposed to be like a Frankenstein type of character, but they're typically played by a man. It's typically a man in drag. And one of the interesting things about this character is it's a very flawed character. It's a very, complex character. Frank-N-Furter's not a great person, They kill people, they're violent, they're sexually manipulative. And so I kind of wonder, what was the intent of the director? We're showing off these, this queer character. We're showing off, or it's a character with queer themes. And, what are we saying? Are we saying that they're like an alien and that, all trans people are all, queer people are dangerous, sexually manipulative? I don't know. And so I think that's interesting. There was an article by the Flow Journal in praise of the bad transgender object. And essentially they talk about Frank-N-Furter as a bad transgender object, deranged, sexually manipulative, violent. These are citing stereotypes that link this kind of lifestyle to deviance. Yet still, it endures as a cult phenomenon. It's problematic by today's standards, but historically, it's vital for the visibility of these kinds of characters and of these kinds of people. We read from a scholar named James Lovelock. And James Lovelock is essentially, talking about how historically queer characters in musicals are often kind of confined to certain tropes, right? So, they have their drama queens, they're in drag, they're over the top, sexually ambiguous, frequently sidelined. And so Lovelock kind of calls for, let's reclaim this space. Let's give deeper, more complex, LGBTQ characters. Let's make deeper stories that are that are more than just, a surface level kind of depiction. And I think Frank-N-Furter kind of really embodies this. Because you can look at it as the one-sided, just sexually manipulative, exploitive, doing all this crazy stuff. But I think there's a lot to be said about the depth behind who Frank-N-Furter is. I wanted to bring up the lyrics to one of the final songs of the movie, I'm Going Home, and Frank-N-Furter essentially sings about,
'Cause I've seen blue skies through the tears in my eyes, and I realize I'm going home. I'm going home.
Frank-N-Furter's been through it. Frank-N-Furter's had a hard time. He had to leave his home. Maybe he faced some kind of prejudice there. So he's gone through hardship. But through the tears, I can see the dark skies and I realize that I'm going home. And it's kind of one of these moments where it's like, wow, you know, I'm not like, I haven't really been necessarily rooting for this character or whatever, but it's a somber moment to say the least. And I think it makes you feel for Frank-N-Furter at least a little bit. So Frank-N-Furter is a complex character. I think Frank-N-Furter embodies everything that Lovelock was trying to say, you know. Let's make a character, and it's characters like Frank-N-Furter. And I'm not saying that Frank-N-Furter and Hedwig from Hedwig and the Angry Inch are the same character. They're not. But those kinds of characters where it's like, look at Hedwig, a very complex, a very deep character, showing an LGBT, story, not going back to these harmful stereotypes. And so I think Hedwig and the Angry Inch does a very good job of that. And I think this movie kind of, you know, at the time, it was very influential. And at the time, it was very welcomed. But nowadays, we can look back and point out the flaws in it. But at the time, it was like, nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever done this before, and no one's ever had the gall to do it. And just because of that fact, it's like, this is impressive. It's a marvel in itself. One of the things that I've recently kind of been exploring when we're talking about media, when we're talking about art, is not so much about the director's intention, but how did the audience perceive it? That's what matters. That's what matters more than the movie itself, you know? Because the director can intend something to be a certain way, but how do people interpret it, you know? How do people perceive it? And when you look at Rocky Horror, it was the fact that it was taken in by such a large community is really amazing. They hold midnight screenings. It becomes like a cult classic. People dress up. There's things you do when you go see the show. You're encouraged to sing along. People perform live, everything. It's awesome. It's this wonderful night of like, let's all come together and watch this movie. And the music's fantastic. I don't blame them. The music's fantastic. It's amazing. So it makes sense, you know, it makes sense why this became such a big cultural phenomenon. So what is the film saying? To me, the film is essentially about accepting oneself. It uses the trope of being stranded and helpless, you know, in the rain as a metaphor for losing who you are. And tucked away in our darkest, deepest parts of our life, there's a light that guides you through the dark. And you know, it explores it through sexuality and explores it through queer themes. But I think the theme of the movie is more universal than just, I say just, you know, not like diminishing, queer themes or whatever, but it's more universal than that. You know what I mean? It uses sexuality as the medium, as the gateway to tell, you know, this story and to have this theme. I used the wording "there's a light" because one of the best songs of the entire movie comes about 20 minutes into the movie. It's a song called "Over at the Frankenstein Place," and it's right when Brad and Janet, their car just broke down and they have nowhere to go. And so Janet sings, you know, "In the velvet darkness, in the blackest night." And I think what the movie is essentially trying to say is it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to have things that make you original, things that makes you unique. It's okay to be doing some weird stuff, you know? Nobody should really be shamed for doing weird stuff. Everybody's doing weird stuff all the time. Everyone. But no one wants to talk about it. Why? This movie points that out. And to be honest, that's probably why it connected so well with queer audiences, because it perfectly fits that, idea of like having to hide a part of yourself or having to, suppress a part of yourself. This is what I'm saying. Frank-N-Furter's manor acts as the safe space for this transformation to take place, as it seemingly did for him once too, as we saw in I'm Going Home, as we can see in I'm Going Home. That is his home. His home isn't a place, it's his safe space. It's wherever a safe space may be. That's who you are. If you focus so much on, the minor details in life, then you're just gonna get so hung up on everything, That's what this movie's about. Accepting yourself. Frank-N-Furter accepts himself, accepts who he is, as this troubled, deeply, flawed character. So one of the other things I wanted to focus on was there was a review by Roger Ebert in 1976, and he kind of focuses on it feeling more stage-bound and excessive, and he implicitly critiques the chaotic sexual gender, play as not translating well to film. And when I looked into the original Broadway run of the show, it was very new, and it was very unique, and it was very original, and I think it turned some people away, but it was still successful. And so I think when they were making the movie, they made it on a shoestring. It had like less than $1 million budget. It's kind of almost like Dogma filmmaking. It's like a B movie. It's totally paying homage to like all of the science fiction films of the 60s. It's purposely doing so. I mean, the opening number is science fiction double feature, talking about, Flash Gordon, the Invisible Man.
When tarantula took to the hills, and I really got hot when I saw Jeanette Scott fight a trivet that spits poison and kills.
Like sci-fi 60s B movies. Rocky Horror is totally paying homage to that, and it's kind of filmed the same way, and they totally did it on purpose. And I think one of the things that people miss was, the campiness is on purpose. It's so campy. It's the perfect amount of campy. It's exactly what it needs to be. On the other side, kind of building onto that, there was a Guardian review for the 50th anniversary, calling it a camp fest and a genuine one-off of raucous queer joy and, similar celebratory takes on its enduring queer liberation despite its flaws. And it does have flaws. So another scholar that we talked about, Stacey Wolf, talks about gender and sexuality. So Wolf highlights the subversive power of gendered performance and excess in musicals. So I think Wolf is kind of trying to point out how, you kind of have to be larger than life. You kind of have to be larger than life. If the world and if life doesn't accept you for who you are, then you have to be larger than that. And it's both a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, I think Rocky Horror will really stand the test of time on just how inviting it is, on how accepting it is. We can view these characters as flawed. We can view these characters as conservatives or, Frank-N-Furter as this flawed, maniac, sexual deviant, whatever it may be. But even though they're flawed, they are able to go through some kind of personal transformation. And as the audience, it inspires us to see that we can unlock some kind of personal transformation and that through the darkness, there's a light. And accepting who you are and accepting those hard parts of yourself might ultimately be the best path forward and maybe the most healthiest option. And I think Rocky Horror just does a fantastic job of showing that. It's campy, it's fun, the music is fantastic, it's so re-listenable, and I think it just applies to, it's so much more universal than just sexuality. And so like we're not just being overtly sexual just to be overtly sexual. I really can't stand movies that do that. I really can't stand movies that are just overtly sexual for no reason. Because if there's no purpose in it, then why are you doing it? It just doesn't seem necessary. And for Rocky Horror Picture Show, there are some parts like that, But for the most part, it really doesn't feel unnecessary. It really does add to the story, the music, the narrative, the characters, the themes, everything. If you haven't gotten the chance to see Rocky Horror, please watch it. It brilliantly disrupts gender and sexuality through its campiness. And yes, it is flawed, and yes, it does, portray some stereotypes in a negative way. I think ultimately it's not a perfect representation, but it is essential into understanding the conversation surrounding, gender and sexuality, surrounding LGBTQ themes, surrounding these universal themes of accepting yourself and being okay with who you are. Maybe it might not be for everyone. It might not be for everyone, but I think everyone should watch it. I think this is one of those movies where what it does and what it says and how it does it and what the audience perceives from it or perceived from it is more important than the movie itself. I implore you, please watch this movie. Please watch the movie. I'm going to watch it again. I have it on Blu-ray. I need to rewatch it. There's so much to learn, so much to enjoy. It's so much fun. And I think there's something in there for everyone. So this has been a critique on Rocky Horror Picture Show. I hope you enjoyed. And thank you, Professor Beltran, for an incredible semester.
Everywhere, it's been the same. Like I'm outside in the rain.